we're going to begin our Global Perspectives Institute for this week on behalf of Global Ties Alabama. It's an honor for me to welcome the attendees today. I'm delighted that you have chosen to join us, and I'm particularly thrilled about the topic, Global Ties U.S. Emerging Leaders Part 2, which means the initial conversation that we had, Part 1, was so impressive that we thought we would do it again, but we would do it with a panel of emerging leaders who have had a chance to transition from either academia or working with a local community-based member, and now is continuing to pursue their respective careers. We're also very, very excited because this Global Perspectives Institute was actually coordinated by an emerging leader. The emerging leader of 2020, Ms. Kezia Daniel, who is a member of the team at Global Ties Alabama. She was raised here in Huntsville, so she's an authentic Alabamian. She currently attends Oakwood University and is pursuing a dual degree in elementary education and Spanish. Kezia first began her relationship with Global Ties Alabama as an outbound member of the Central American Youth Ambassadors in 2014. So there were 20 students around the country who were selected to represent the United States in Central America. And it just changed her life. She came back, I think, ready to go back. She kept talking about, when I grow up, I'm starting a school in Nicaragua. And she also, because of that experience, chose to study abroad in Spain. So she's been with us and working our programmatic end of the Global Ties Alabama options that we offer to our stakeholders. She has also spoken with our delegations, our youth delegations especially, and she considers herself now a global citizen, and we're delighted that she has represented Global Ties Alabama as a global emerging leader in January of 2020. She does have a love for global service, and she's now recognizing that all of these global opportunities shows that the world is a classroom in itself, which matches with her career goal of becoming an educator. So I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for the day, Kezia Daniel. And Kezia, take it away.
Thank you, Mrs. Shipe. Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Like Mrs. Shipe said, my name is Kezia Daniel, and I currently intern with Global Ties Alabama. Earlier this year in January, I had the opportunity to be in the 2020 Emerging Leader cohort. And the Emerging Leader program is where GTUS recruits standout interns and volunteers from our network to join the national meeting as a volunteer or as a participant. And over the course of 3 or 4 days, we are able to immerse ourselves in the world of public diplomacy, international exchanges. And by attending these events, we're exposed to so much. Global Ties Alabama is a part of a bigger network. We're a part of Global Ties US. Now, we have sent several leaders to this program, and we have acknowledged them. But we also wanted to acknowledge what our network is doing and what the leaders, where they are at now. And so we're going to take this time to recognize a few of our outstanding emerging leaders who have continued in this profession. And before we begin, I want to take the time to thank those who have made this program possible. As you can see, we have someone named Ms. Sharon Dirtka who is there. Her and her husband, Al, were the founders of the program. And since 2011, they saw the importance of providing young professionals the opportunity to become leaders. And since 2014, this program has been in place. I also want to thank Miss Judy Donner, who is the Senior Program Manager, as well as Jason Terry. And hopefully at the end, when we have some time, I will call on Miss Sharon and Miss Judy to speak for a moment. So first, we would like to introduce Lydia Awad. She was a Global Ties Emerging Leader in 2014. While she was working with the Georgia Council for International Visitors, she interned with them, and she was pursuing her BA in Atlanta, Georgia. She was a part of the IVLP and Emerging Leaders Program, and both programs have inspired her to make the move to DC to pursue a career in international development. Lydia, thank you for joining us, and you can go ahead and let us know how the program has impacted you and where you are now.
Sure. Thank you, Kezia. Thank you, everyone. And hi, nice to meet you. As Kezia mentioned, my name is Lydia Awad. I was a part of GCIV, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. That's the Georgia Council for International Visitors. So I first started pursuing that during my undergraduate studies, and then I was interning there, and then I became a full program staff with them as a project coordinator. And it basically changed my life. It was kind of the turning point for me where I knew that I wanted to work in international development and global diplomacy. And so it was an amazing program. Through that, I was actually in the first cohort of Emerging Leaders in 2014. And I was, when I came to DC, it was like the first time I visited the city, and I felt so inspired. As soon as I, got to the conference, it was just the network, like meeting so many different people from different CBMs and from different organizations in DC really motivated me to want to move to DC and pursue my career further. I just saw so many opportunities in DC through this platform. And so it was probably one of the best experiences I've had to date in my life professionally. It was also a great personal experience as well. So I met a ton of friends. I actually met my best friend through the program. I was even like a maid of honor at her wedding. So, if it wasn't for emerging leaders, I would not have ever met her. So it's been a great experience. So let me see what else I want to talk about. So currently I work with an international development firm in DC. It's called MENA. And I've kind of shifted from IVP and been working more on USAID contract stuff. So when I first moved to DC, I was working on a USAID contract for international education that brought Egyptian women and Indonesian students to the US to pursue their degrees. And then currently I'm working with USAID on a Feed the Future contract. The program is monitoring and evaluation. And so what we do is I manage consultant teams that go out into the field in the Feed the Future countries, which there are 12 of them. They're, around Africa and Latin America, mostly, and a few in Asia. So I manage those teams that go and collect data. They collect quantitative and qualitative data around these programs that were implemented. And so we provide recommendations for like follow-up programs for USAID, or, how they can tweak their programming to be more efficient and effective. And that's really tied a lot of different cultural things that are happening, in context in the country. So like I mentioned, it's kind of, a different sphere, but it's still all kind of interconnected and related. And I feel that I use a lot of the skills in my current role that I actually learned through IVLP, cultural sensitivity, with a lot of different backgrounds, and kind of having to, the interaction with people. So that's been my experience with IVLP and how that's kind of transitioned into my current career. So yeah, that's it. I don't know, Kezia, if you want me to elaborate on anything, let me know.
That was great, Lydia. We will circle back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we will be hearing from Mr. Andrew Kovach. He is a part of the 2016 cohort. He is currently the program officer for International Visitors Program at the Cleveland Council on World Affairs. He holds an MA in Global Interactions from Cleveland State University, where he also completed his undergraduate degree in International Relations and Political Science. Andrew first joined the council in 2015 as development assistant and then assumed a role as International Visitors Program Associate. Andrew was the 2019 Excellence in Programming, Andrew was the recipient of the 2019 Excellence in Programming Award by Global Ties US in 2019. So thank you, Andrew, for being here. If you'll take a moment to go ahead and introduce yourself, your experience, and where you are now.
Yeah, thanks, Kezia. I'm really happy to be here. Well, backing up a little bit further, my first experience with the Cleveland Council World Affairs was actually in 2013. I started off as an intern with the International Visitor Leadership Program under my colleague Katie's predecessor. His name was Ryan, but Katie's also on the call here joining us, I see. But so my first foray into this network of exchanges and global ties was back in 2013. And from that internship, I was definitely hooked both on exchanges, getting, meeting international visitors, learning more about global affairs, but also hooked on the Cleveland Council on World Affairs as a nonprofit. And I think that definitely shaped my part-time, starting off as a development assistant with the Cleveland Council on World Affairs before transitioning back to the International Visitor Leadership Program and exchanges at CCWA. And it was then in 2016 when I was accepted for the Emerging Leaders Program, which was an incredible opportunity to network among kind of my counterparts in Washington and DC at the NPAs and at the State Department. And, and also, professionally speaking, and then also from a personal standpoint, meeting a lot of great people, friends that I still keep in touch on, Facebook or whatever it might be. And I remember just getting a feel for Washington, D.C. and the city was a lot of fun, staying at a hostel actually with the group of emerging leaders. I'm not sure if Judy still has emerging leaders stay in the hostel, but it was actually a really fun experience. And taking the metro into the hotel, I felt like I was not just visiting DC, but actually kind of like living there for a couple of days, which made it a kind of really personalized experience. So thank you, Judy, for organizing these incredible emerging leader programs. And as Kezia mentioned today, I'm a program officer with the Cleveland Council, working with my my counterpart, my colleague Katie, on our exchange programs. So I'll stop there, but thank you again. Happy to be here.
Thank you. That was great to hear. Next, we will be hearing from Chelsea Beaulieu. She has joined Cultural Vista's DC office as an assistant program officer for International Visitors Leadership Program in 2018, and she was promoted to program officer in January 2020. Prior to working at Cultural Vistas, she was communications and marketing officer at the World Affairs Councils of America. Previously, she assisted with the IVLP in developing speaker panels for the Vermont Councils on World Affairs. She holds a BA in Global Studies in French and an MA in International Affairs from Slade Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island. During her undergraduate studies, she spent a semester abroad studying in India. Chelsea, if you can go ahead and let everyone know where you are now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kezia and Global Ties Alabama, for having us. I'm really happy to be here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey to the Emerging Leaders Program. So during my master's degree, I decided to take some time off before I finished and had to jump right into the workforce. So I went backpacking for about 10 months. And when I got back, I was a little broke. So I ended up living at home in Vermont, finishing my degree online. And I felt really disconnected from the international world in little rural Vermont. So I Googled something like International Organizations Burlington, and Vermont Council on World Affairs popped up. And I reached out and asked if I could volunteer for them. And so what happened is a couple hours a week volunteer position turned into a 30+ hour a week internship as a program assistant intern. Essentially just because I absolutely fell in love with the organization, like the other panelists have said about their CBMs. I loved what they were doing. I loved the speaker events in addition to the IVLP, and I just wanted to get involved as much as possible. And so obviously the organization gave me the opportunity to go to the Global Ties US meeting as emerging leader. And being there, it just really opened my eyes to all of the different moving parts and roles that go into putting on a successful IVLP program. And I was really inspired by everybody who contributes to the program, and also by just the level of collaboration that there was, and passion for what they were doing. And I still to this day, I don't know of any other, program that encourages this level of collaboration, and it's still inspiring to me. It makes me love to work on this. Another thing I think I got out of the Emerging Leaders program was really a push into the world of networking. And so that was really helpful. It was the first huge event where we were encouraged to network. It was also helpful having the cohort as kind of a safety net to go around the conference with, to help with stepping out of your comfort zone and networking. So I'm really, it kind of, it solidified my interest in working in exchanges specifically. And so as Kezia mentioned, I first worked with the World Affairs Councils of America, and that's more focused on speaker programs and things like that. And while I love that work, once I was there, I was like, I got to get back into exchanges. And so I ended up working at Cultural Vistas, and I'm still here. I love my job. I do work on the IVLP now. I think some of my favorite parts about working at Cultural Vistas on IVLP is actually this year I got to work on the planning committee with Katie Furman as our lead for the national meeting. And that was really great because it felt like the whole experience had come full circle. So I had first attended as emerging leader, and then this past year I got to contribute to organizing a panel discussion. And so that was really special to me. And I think also, with IVLP going virtual right now, that's been something that's really been a learning curve, and it's been challenging, but it's also been exciting. And I have once again been so inspired at how this network has been able to pivot to virtual, get creative, and still deliver really, really impactful programs to the participants. So that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Yes, that's one thing that is encouraged during the national meeting, is for us young emerging leaders to go out there and network, which allows us to get to where we are now. So thank you. We're thankful that we have that opportunity. Next, we will be hearing from Mr. Kenton Nakamura. He is from the 2018 cohort. He graduated from the University of Washington, Seattle with a BS in biology and a minor in ethics. In 2017, he joined the World Affairs Council Seattle and hosted delegations from the Iraqi Young Leaders Exchange Program, Hands Along the Nile Development Services, and International Visitor Leadership Program. Through the World Affairs Council Seattle, he had an opportunity to attend the Global Ties National Meeting and was offered a position at CRDF Global in 2018 as a travel and logistics coordinator to implement international biosecurity exchange programs and fellowship. Thank you, Kenton, for being here. If you would like to take a moment to introduce yourself and your background and where you are now.
Great. Thank you for everybody to coming, and definitely a big kudos to Kezia for organizing all of this. And I'm really honored to be a part of this panel along with everybody else. And I'm very, very humbled to hear about everybody else's stories. So as Kezia mentioned, my name is Kenton. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and then I attended the University of Washington in Seattle, where I did my undergrad degree in bio with a minor in ethics. And kind of from my time in Hawaii, I got a lot of like multiculturalism experience and a lot of familiarity with a lot of many different cultures, in addition to the hospitality that they provided. And when I went to Seattle to attend my undergrad program, I was really involved with the Asian American community on campus and started gaining greater awareness about global issues. So after I graduated in 2016 now, I was desperately looking for a job, and I wanted to kind of get involved and take the next step from being involved with the local community to getting more involved with the greater community. I moved back home for about 9 months, where I participated in a program organized by Pacific Forum to promote awareness about the role that Hawaii plays in the Asia Pacific region. And they bring a bunch of different emerging leaders from many different sectors, whether it's military or like the tourism industry, and kind of raising awareness about the role that Hawaii plays in the Asia Pacific. And as well as some of the security challenges that are faced by Hawaii and the United States. So after that, I was offered an internship at the World Affairs Council of Seattle. And that was really my first dive into international exchange programs. So I organized like exchange programs for high school students to learn about leadership skills. And these high school students were from Iraq and did like really amazing work, met a lot of like really amazing people through that. And then I also was involved with the IVOP, where I kind of got to meet more professional participants, as well as participate in a professional short-term 1-month fellowship program. In 2018, I was nominated for the Emerging Leaders Program by my CBM, and that was my first time into DC to attend the 2018 national meeting. And that was just an absolutely transformative experience for me. Coming from Hawaii and then moving to Seattle, I had always kind of had that mindset, or I was told that a lot of people living on the East Coast tend to be very to the point and not necessarily very friendly. But I just had such an overwhelmingly positive experience. Thank you to Judy and Sharon and Al for organizing this experience, and I just loved it so much. I felt inspired to kind of pick up my life and move across the country, and was offered a position as a travel and logistics coordinator at CRDF. And although I don't do a whole lot of work in IVOP anymore, it is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I will always be forever grateful and really enjoy the experiences that IVOP has given.
Thank you, Kenton. And now we will hear from our last emerging leader, who is Gregory Wisher. He's from the 2020 cohort. He is a master's student currently at Georgetown University's Security Studies program. His scholarly interests are Indian and Chinese foreign policy. He has interned in both the private and public sector, including the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee and Center for Policy Research in India. He has written various articles appearing in International Policy Digest, Post Register, and Global Strategist. He has also traveled to over 20 countries, most extensively in Africa. Congratulations, Gregory. He has recently graduated with the Bachelor's of Administration and International Business from Boise State University, where he also captained the men's tennis team. So now we will hear from Gregory.
Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be on this panel with everybody, and it's so great to see familiar faces, Kezia, Mrs. Durka, and Judy, of course. It's so great to see everyone, especially in these whirlwind of times. It's nice to see everybody's faces again. So I'll just start with providing some background about myself, and I think it's really demonstrative of the sort of serendipitous routes that all the panelists, including myself, have taken to get into this world of public diplomacy, and whether or not we might not be in it right now, that we have had incredible experiences with it. So I was born and raised in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and I was a junior tennis player competing at the national level, and I was recruited to play tennis at Boise State, and I played for my first 2 years out there. And then I decided to focus on education and what I want to do post college, because I knew I was going to be a professional tennis player. So I became heavily involved with politics. I interned on Capitol Hill, and then I also interned, as Casey was saying, in the private sector in Idaho as well. And one day I was attending a class lecture, and there were guest speakers for that day, and there was like high-level diplomats. I was thinking, what in like, how did our professor pull this off? There was diplomats from the UAE and diplomat from Mexico and high-level trade administrators as well. So then after they spoke, I noticed that there was an unfamiliar face in the room, and she was actually the organizer. She was with the CBM that organized this talk. So we got to talking, and that was my first introduction then to Global Ties Idaho. And then, I mean, that whole experience sort of kickstarted a variety of other things as well. So I then became an intern with them, and I was mainly a conduit between them and Capitol Hill, particularly with the advocacy aspect of it, with my prior experience on Capitol Hill, then also with the local business community in Idaho. And all the experiences that provided, having the opportunity to interact with international visitors coming to the United States, and specifically to Idaho, because like when I would travel overseas, they'd always be talking about New York and LA, and I always want to talk about North Dakota or Idaho, thinking of that. The country is so diverse and so interesting and so different geographically, culturally, that we're not just New York, we're not just LA. So having that opportunity was an immense opportunity that I truly valued every single moment that we had international visitors visiting Boise. And unfortunately, as all of us have seen, this internship was really supposed to kickstart heavily this last spring, but obviously with COVID sort of coming to the fore, that largely mitigate a lot of those experiences. But having the opportunity before COVID hit to interact with international visitors was absolutely incredible. And last spring, then, as Casey was saying, we were in the same cohort together, and my deepest thanks goes to Mrs. Durka and to Judy, who facilitated it all. Is that the experience was absolutely incredible, having the opportunity to be on the reception of the 8th floor at the State Department, to engaging in a crisis simulation at the State Department, to having the opportunity to develop close friendships with everyone in the cohort. The experiences was valuable beyond measure. And still, I think we see today that this has continued to reap rewards and will reap rewards long into the future for everyone involved in it. So my deepest gratitude goes to Mrs. Durka and to Judy for facilitating it all. And one key thing that I really gained from being a part of the Emerging Leaders process was seeing the ability of soft power. So as Casey was saying, my background was sort of in more of hard power, so coercive power, military power, economic power, to advance U.S. foreign policy. And being involved with Global Ties Idaho and with Global Ties US, you really get to see the power that soft power has. So the ability to influence foreign policy of other nations via the US culturally, via the American people, whether it be movies, TV shows, music, to our system of government, to being a democracy. So having to see that aspect to it and seeing how valuable that is, it was incredibly eye-opening to me. And being able to look to the past and see that, like when you go on Capitol Hill, it's not just, IVLP is not just providing a free trip for overseas citizens to come to the United States. It actually has proof. And if we look at what former heads of the KGB in the US said, they said that this was the Trojan horse of bringing down the Soviet Union. So this is actually an immense power that the United States has to wield, and having that effectuate in the IVLP really brought to light how important the US soft power is. We see this emphasis so much on military, and to think that the entire public diplomacy budget of the United States government is equal to a single B-2 bomber. I mean, that's pretty stark. So having being a part of the Emerging Leaders process and just seeing how it all gets done and what value it has was incredibly eye-opening and valuable beyond measure. So again, it's an honor to be on the panel with everybody, and I look forward to hearing the questions. And my thanks, as always, to Mrs. Durka and to Judy for providing an experience that will last a lifetime.
Thank you, Greg. I think I speak for everyone when I say that the Emerging Leaders Program has opened doors and provided paths for all of us that we are on now. And I'm thankful for the opportunity. I know all of our panelists are. And once again, thank you to Ms. Sharon and Ms. Judy, who make this possible for us young professional leaders. So Ms. Judy or Ms. Sharon, if either one of you would like to say a thing or two, then it would be greatly appreciated.
I'll say a thing or two first, and then Sharon, I hope you follow me. Hi, Sharon. It's so great to see all of you. And I think from my perspective, having done this now since 2014, to see how the profile of an emerging leader was the same in 2014 as it will be in 2021. You're really impressive, passionate, bright, dedicated young people who were sparked somewhere, somehow about this field, and you found ways to, well, first you were nominated by wonderful supervisors like Jackie Shipe. You caught someone's eye for being as outstanding as you were then, but it follows through to what you did with it at the time and what you're going to go and do with it afterward. And for those folks on this Zoom call who are just getting some information, it just shows you how young people from all over the country have passions like you might have. I think that's a key that I learned from all of you, that, oh my, I didn't realize there were so many people like me. So you realize you're part of a world of really caring people who are truly making this crazy world a better place. So it's great to see you. My heart is always warmed by hearing how the program influenced you or inspired you. It sounds condescending to say I'm proud of you, but I'm proud to have played a role in your development. And I'm always available, happy to help if there's any way. I'm good at connecting people, but at this point I turn to the emerging leaders to help me sometimes. So goes around, comes around.
Thank you, Judy.
I can't tell you how proud I am, not of what I've done, but what you have done and what I've become because of you. It's inspiring. And I can remember each year saying, you stand tall because you stand on the shoulders of the people who've gone before you. And each of you has recognized throughout your talks today, and I see it in your lives, those who made it possible for you to see a little further than we were able to see. And that to me is worth every little moment that we got to spend together. I have fond memories of each of you, and you're surprised. I mean, when I saw Kenton, I thought, I remember all this, and I remember all the things we talked about. Each of you was a piece of that liveliness. And I know I challenged each of you to talk to everybody and to come and talk about what you've learned, because you have to say it and then it becomes part of you. And you're again doing that same thing and sharing it. And Al regrets he's in another Zoom meeting and he can't be here. And so I'm glad to see it's being recorded, because he'll really want to see this. We're 9 days away from our multicultural festival. It's 77th year. It's the first time we are not in person. And so you know what it's like to try and put together 60 virtual groups and all of the things that make our festival very unique. And the experience you had while you were in DC, I think I grew with, because as you're talking, I'm thinking, gee, when I was 3, I got a book about Japan. When I was 12, I made a decision, Japan was too far away, Mexico was closer. You know, all those kind of things come back and say, this is what makes us who we are. And as I listen to my friends or to people I'm in the community with, you know, they'll say, oh, people in North Carolina who've never had contact with people of other ethnic groups. And I keep thinking, that's strange, because if I look at the workforce that we're with, and I walk into my husband's office, it's the most multicultural little tiny office that you could have. And that's what you bring to the world. You bring who you are, and then all the things you've become because you've talked to other people and been with them. And the other thing I thought about as you were talking is that each of you had a brick or a storage pile of bricks, and you've not built walls, you've built bridges, not for yourself only, but for all of those you come in contact with. And that, I think, is something they ought to be very proud of. I have one person who has a stone on their desk. It's now 30, not quite 30 years. It's about probably her stone is probably about 10 or 15 years old. We make stone soup every day, every year at the festival. And we talk about diversity. And Al said last night, she came to do her videotaping of stone soup and bringing all the vegetables in different languages, excuse me, to our, to our group. And Al said, you mean she's using the same stone you gave her that many years ago? And the stone symbolizes her feeling about multiculturalism. So your imaginary bricks are what you are making of your lives. And the country, when you spoke, Gregory, of the soft power, the country is so much better because of what you're doing. And some people will say, but you're not doing, something, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You're doing the stuff that makes us a great America. So I'm just proud of you. And I'm just so sorry that Al isn't here to talk, but I know he would say the same thing.
Yes, well, thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for simply just giving us the chance that we need to go ahead and spread our wings and fly. So now we're going to open this time up for any questions. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat box and I'll read from there. I'm going to open this question up for anyone who would like to answer. If you can remember any particular memory from the national meeting, you can share it with us. You can highlight a memory or something that happened as a result of the Emerging Leaders Program.
I'll make my first comment. It's Judy. Without Judy, this wouldn't be as powerful as it is.
Thank you. Big love fest here.
Yes, Judy, she was the moderator for our our Emerging Leaders Part 1. And when I thought of the idea to have a Part 2, I reached out to Judy and she responded immediately and said, these are a few people I'm still corresponding with. Hopefully they'll be of assistance to you. So Judy, definitely Judy. Thank you, Judy.
I love it. Don't tell anyone, but it's the best part of my job. It's not a job. I just love it.
I guess I'll start. So how my sort of emerging leaders journey started was Judy sending us emails preparing us for the conference, saying, please don't be late for the first event. Please don't be late for the first event. And I go to the hotel because I misread the email thinking that this is where the national meeting is. That's where we're going to meet. I end up not reading the rest of the email. And at the first meeting for all the Global Ties people is supposed to be at Global Ties. And I'm not there after how many emails Judy sent. But after we got through that, she forgave me, was every single day at the Emerging Leaders Conference was unbelievable. We were going to the State Department. We were having the reception on the 8th floor. We were doing the simulation of the crisis. We were meeting. And like one of my favorite parts too was escorting the foreign diplomats when they would come for the luncheon and having the opportunity, even if it's 5 minutes to speak with some of these high level foreign diplomats. That was an education in of itself, and learning about the diplomatic protocol to that extent, and in addition to attending the various talks that were held by whether it be State Department officials talking about security in East Asia or talking about humanitarian assistance in the Middle East and North Africa. Every single day when I first saw the emerging leaders, how it was supposed to be going, the CBM, this was sort of their first experience with it, Global Ties Idaho, they sort of thought that was going to be like we were going to be sort of helping out at the conference and like sort of putting it on. And it was like I was on vacation for the entire thing. It wasn't a leisurely vacation. It was a vacation of learning and education. And that was the best type of a vacation I could ever have. So again, like Judy, how you facilitated that. I mean, it was every single day I'd look at the itinerary and be absolutely thrilled for the experiences that we were about to have.
I'll go now. Oh, sorry. Lydia, do you want to go?
No, go ahead, Chelsea.
Okay. Well, I first want to say I too went to the hotel when I was supposed to go to Global Ties on that first day. So you're not alone, Gregory. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack when I realized that I would be late. But that's not the main thing that stood out. I think that My favorite part of my program, and I don't know if this is done every year, but there was a young professionals panel that was just for us. And it actually had people like who are on this panel today in a small room off to the side um, for us to have conversations with and ask how we can get into this field. And that was incredibly valuable. I actually remember, I think Franzi at Global Ties was on the panel too that day. But that provided a really intimate opportunity to ask our burning questions about breaking into this field of global diplomacy, and it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I can share some of mine. So I was also late to the conference the first day, but only because I remember there was like a snowpocalypse that year, and I was coming from Atlanta, and it had frozen. I didn't even think I was going to be able to make it, but Judy was very understanding. But it sounds like everybody was late, so I feel better. But yeah, that was my first experience. One of the things that really stood out to me during the conference that I really enjoyed was the dinner at the embassies. So I'm Egyptian, and then I remember they had it coordinated to go to the Egyptian embassy. So I chose to go to that one. And I remember just like having a conversation with the ambassador, and I was like, so cool. And, he gave me his information, like, email me, and we had like a really good, back and forth. And then I got too intimidated to email him afterwards, but it was still a great experience. And I remember, I think it's one of the highlights there, amongst others. I mean, just like I mentioned earlier, just my cohort, meeting them, and, just the whole network. So.
For me, jokingly, I would probably say it's my addiction to conference coffees. It started with the national meeting. So I don't usually drink coffee, but when I attend conferences like the national meeting or any other kind of conference, I now drink like 10 cups of coffee per day. On a little bit more of a serious note, like I think I mentioned this a bit before, but my current position as a travel and logistics coordinator at CRDF, after attending the meeting, I decided, and attending the Emerging Leaders Program, and getting to meet a lot of different people at the different NPAs and CBMs. I applied for a bunch of different positions at World Learning, FHI 360, and then as I was funnily enough, actually, I didn't meet anybody from CRDF at the national meeting. It was their first national meeting. And while I was in DC for some interviews, I decided I wanted to stop by and say hi to Judy. And she said, have you thought about applying for a position at CRDF? I know that they're hiring. So I looked them up, and because of my background in science, and because I hadn't done a whole lot of science exchange programs, that was something that I was interested in. And I'm very happy that I'm here now, and kind of wishing that the weather was a little bit cooler, but otherwise really grateful to be here in DC, and I can't imagine what my life would have been like without the Emerging Leaders Program.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add that the Global Ties National, I mean, really, meeting new friends within the cohort was really special, and we still, some of us still keep in touch today, and it's interesting the different career paths the cohort has taken. And yeah, Lydia, I think you spoke on one of our panels. I want to say I was in the 2016 cohort. I want to say you spoke at kind of one of the introductory panels, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I just don't remember who all was in the room, but I remember speaking at one.
Yeah. So again, I just kind of building up this network amongst each other was really special, and is a something that carries beyond just that 4 or 5 day conference. It stretches on years now, which is really unique, I think.
Before we close, we have one question in the chat if one or two of you would like to answer. For young people who are interested in applying to be an emerging leader in the future, what would you recommend as key skills, capacities, or qualities that they should highlight in their application and bring with them to the national meeting?
So if it's okay, I'll hopefully clarify that this particular Emerging Leaders Program that all of our speakers represent it's open to current interns, current recent interns and volunteers within our Global Ties US National Network. So I don't know if people on this call are all from Huntsville or if we've got some folks from around the country. You want to go onto the Global Ties US website, globaltiesus.org, and you will see all the different states and cities where we have member organizations. And like Chelsea said, she just called up and offered to volunteer in Vermont some time ago, or if you're looking for an internship, you could always check in with me and talk to me about some suggestions, but I'm guessing all of our members are looking for bright, enthusiastic young folks like you're hearing from who have kind of emerged already, but that's what they're looking for. That's what we're looking for. However, this particular program is only open to current or recent volunteers and interns at our member organizations.
I think that's just the greatest ad to say, get yourself an internship in one of ours. It'd be one of ours. So it gives you, it opens the world.
Well, thank you. That was a great way to close. Now I'll pass it over to Mrs. Shipe, and she will give our closing remarks.
I'm just so inspired by each one of our panelists. I'm always appreciative to Sharon and Judy for the contributions that they make to make the Emerging Leaders Program a reality. When we started today, I was joking with them because they were giving Kezia a lot of compliments. And I said, oh, Kezia has her own cheerleading team here. But I really, as I've listened to each of you today, individually and collectively, I think you're cheerleaders for our country, you're cheerleaders for our democracy. And I am so thankful for the collective energy, the networking, the passion, and the collaboration. And the cultural competence that you've expressed today. Our future begins now. Our future is not tomorrow, it's today, and we're seeing the contributions that you're making. So thank you for your presentations today and sharing on this Global Perspectives Institute. I'd like to remind our viewers that next week we'll be celebrating International Education Week. And we're really excited about our panel. Several of them are involved in Model UN programs. And then we also have our Alabama Asian Cultures Foundation. These are all programs that are dedicated to education in Alabama, and we have a product of one of those Model UN programs from Westminster High School, and we're just so thankful that we can continue the conversation promoting young people and the contributions that they make to our global village. So look forward to many of you joining us. Again, thank you and best wishes to all of you in your international careers. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Great
everyone.
seeing everyone.
Thank you.
Great job,
Bye-bye.
Kezia.